right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome everyone to our first SWAAAC monthly webinar of the season. We're really glad to have you. We're glad to be back, glad you're back. Happy to see everybody's names popping up into the participant Zoom bar. So thanks for being here. If we've not met, I'm Chris Perkins. I help to coordinate the SWAAAC program. We also have today Paige Strongman. Paige, you want to go ahead and wave? I don't know if you can see her. Paige is new to the team. She started back in March, right before everything shut down. But she is our new SWAAAC Loan Library Administrator. So she is going to be taking care of circulation. So all things circulation, she's your man. We also have Maureen Malonis online, and she is the program director for the Center for Inclusive Design and Engineering, as well as the SWAAAC program. So at any time, if there's anything any of us can do to help support your efforts as you're working with students, we're here for you. It's our job. We love hearing from you. We love to see your name in our email. We love to get your phone calls. Never, ever, ever hesitate to contact us because we enjoy hearing from you and we love being able to help. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about that loan library. We're going to take a big picture overview of what it is and how it works, how to get started with the library, and then some of the specifics about requesting loans, receiving loans, and sending loans back. So before we get into it too deep, if you're not familiar, SWAAAC, S-W-A-A-A-C, stands for Statewide Assistive Technology Augmentative Alternative Communication. And it is a program that is a contract between the Center for Inclusive Design and Engineering at CU Denver and the Colorado Department of Education. It is the Colorado Department of Education that funds our loan library. But they are not exclusively the only ones who are giving us the budget to purchase, expand, and maintain the library. Early Intervention Colorado also contributes funds to ensure that there is equipment available for children birth to 3. There are a limited number of AT consultants within EI Colorado who have access to the loan library, in addition to our SWAAAC team coordinators. For both programs, the primary intent with the loan library is to support assessment process. We know that your budgets are limited, school budgets are limited, and so we want to ensure that you're able to make well-informed purchasing decisions. So the idea with the loan library is that we send you a piece of equipment that you think might be appropriate for a student, and then you have the opportunity to apply it and take some data and really observe whether or not it's a good fit with your student before you pursue permanent funding and procurement for that student. Oftentimes, we get requests from parents who are maybe homeschooling their children, or they have children in private schools. Sometimes we get requests from private practitioners, but unfortunately, because of where our funding comes from, the only children who are really eligible to benefit from the loan library are those children who are receiving Part B and Part C services. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, feel free to put them into the chat box. Maureen and Paige, I'm going to ask that maybe you keep an eye on the chat box and let me know if something pops up. So something that people don't always necessarily realize is how much is really available in the loan library. I think folks tend to default to augmentative alternative communication devices and switches. And we certainly have a lot of that. But we also have things like adapted curricula. So if you have a student with complex communication needs, there are curricula in the Loan Library that are designed to support students who are using communication systems. We also have things like textbooks. We have oftentimes added books that come at the recommendation of workshop presenters. We recently sponsored Chris Bugaj this summer at the CAKE conference, and his book, The New Assistive Tech, is available through the SWAAAC Loan Library. We also have standardized and non-standardized assessment tools that might be interesting. We have preparatory materials for the ResMet ATP credential in the Loan Library. And then just this summer, when the Loan Library was shut down with everything else, we had some time on our hands, and we did a little brainstorming about how to make the most out of this gift of time. And we've spent the summer putting together digital books and activities that are now available through the Loan Library. Paige in particular has been crafting PowerPoint books, narrated PowerPoint books, and PowerPoint books designed for students with low vision and or cortical vision impairment. To go along with those books, she's also put together Jamboards, which are kind of digital felt boards, if you will. So there's backgrounds and little moving pieces and parts that are intended to complement some of the books that we've put into the library. So something else that not everyone always appreciates is the fact that anybody, anywhere in the world, can get a look at our library online. There is essentially a catalog. If you're not logged in, you're seeing the catalog. So as a team coordinator, you might direct an educator, a special educator, a related service provider, speech language pathologist, or even a parent to the catalog where they can browse and consider items that might be appropriate for a student that they're working with. If they see something that they like, that they would like to borrow, they could then communicate that back to the team coordinator, who has the opportunity then to place a request. The Loan Library online is easily accessible from the SWAAAC website as well as the Tech for Type website. And the SWAAAC website is super easy to remember: www.swaac.com, or .org works too. So SWAAC.com, SWAAC.org, so easy to remember. So again, the library, the complete inventory, can be viewed online. You may hear me and or other SWAAC, Central Office SWAAC members talk about Alexandria. Alexandria is actually the library software that we use. This software can be found in public schools all across the country. For the most part, it works really well for us. However, there are some little nuances that don't work as well. On some level, we're kind of trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And so sometimes there's little glitches. It's not perfect. But if for some reason something's not working for you, please, please, please let us know. Contact us, because we want to know what's not working. It's possible we can fix it. Or if we can't fix it, we can help you make the system work for you. So please let us know if there's any issues with Alexandria. So again, the purpose of the library is to support evaluation and assessment purposes. There are some other reasons, though, why you might use the loan library. Professional development being one. A lot of people will check out, let's say, a communication device because they've got a new student that they're working with and they've never, say, used an Accent 800 before. It's kind of a complicated system. It's a not as intuitive language system. And so they might request an Accent 800 from the loan library so that they can keep that device on their desk, and over their lunch hour or when they have a preparatory hour, they can spend some time becoming more familiar with the system. The other reason that people might use the library is to borrow items in a more traditional sort of library way. Like I said, we have books, so you'll check out a book, read the book, and return the book. There are also lots of toys, and I think our toys get used this way. If you have kids, you know that they open the toys on Christmas Day, and a week later, they're bored and they're not interested anymore. So the loan library has a large collection of adapted toys and Switch adapted toys, and our kids who are using these toys get bored with them just as fast as their neurotypical peers. So feel free to use the loan library to circulate and swap out toys. But what you don't want to use the loan library for is a long-term solution. So if you've gone through an assessment process and you've identified a solution for a student, it really is the responsibility of the district then to investigate and determine funding and procurement as a long-term solution. Sometimes, sadly, there are wait lists. As with any library, the most popular books sometimes get waitlisted, as do our most popular devices and items in the loan library. What I want you to know, though, is that wait list is one of the best sources of information for us in terms of directing and guiding purchasing decisions. So if you go into the library and you realize that it's checked out and not available, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and place a request anyway, because it's like I said, just a great litmus for us in terms of knowing the demand in the state. If we end up with a wait list that's 3 people deep, chances are we are going to seriously consider adding more of that item into the loan library. The other thing that sometimes happens is people get into inventory and we don't have it. It's something new to the market, or we just never purchased that item before. But if you need it and you want it, chances are somebody else needs it and wants it. And so email us, let us know what it is that's missing from the library. And we are very happy then to do a little research and put that in queue for purchase. Okay. So that's a little bit about the library itself. Let's talk a little bit about the policy, the rules. There's always rules. And we actually have 3 different agreements because there are 3 different circumstances that people might use the loan library. The first, which is probably what most of you are familiar with, is the SWAAAC team agreement. And this is really just that agreement between us and you that involves how we're going to utilize loan library items. The expectations. It just lays out what I'm going to do and what you're going to do. There's also an assisted listening loan library agreement. We have a collection of assisted listening equipment that is often prescribed by an audiologist. And so we have a number of audiologists to have access to that equipment. If your audiologist in your district is unaware, we would love for you to help us get the word out, because we would like to see this part of the loan library get used a little bit more. And then we also have, as I mentioned before, early intervention consultants, and they have their own separate agreement. And the reason that we do that on some level is because the people who are signing these agreements varies just a little bit. For SWAAAC, we've got a team coordinator, but there are some really big districts out there, and one team coordinator alone is probably not sufficient to take care of all the needs of the district. So they also might have some delegates, other people that the district is giving some responsibility to in terms of the loan library. And then also the special education director is going to sign that agreement. With the assisted listening agreement, that's going to be the audiologist and special education director. And if you're an EI provider, it's going to be yourself and your CCB manager. So I'm not going to read through all of the policies, but I would strongly encourage you, if you're using the loan library, to have a general understanding of those policies and know the expectations. We, in a nutshell, expect that the equipment is going to come back in good working order, that it'll be cleaned up, and that you'll check to ensure that all of the contents that were in the box when you received it are back in the box when you send it back. Here are a few other things to keep in mind as a borrower. As I mentioned before, it's possible that you are borrowing on behalf of other teammates, a special education teacher or a related service provider. So it's a good idea for you to have your own system for tracking who has what equipment, where, and for how long. Because we're always going to come back to you as the team coordinator if something doesn't get returned on time. And I'll tell you, this is one of the times when school districts see an invoice from us. We don't send out invoices very often, maybe half a dozen a year, and we do about 1,200 loans a year, so it doesn't happen very often. But it almost seems to me like more often than not, it's because something got lost. And it's because a team coordinator borrowed a piece of equipment and it went out to a teacher, but they are not sure what teacher and where. So as the team coordinator, as the borrower, that's just something that we like to encourage when you're checking items out for other people, that you have a system in place for tracking. The other question that we get a lot is whether or not they can send equipment home with the student, which is a great question because sometimes it's entirely appropriate to get a feel for a student's performance at home. You know, communication equipment, AAC devices in particular, it's, you know, entirely appropriate to maybe send that home with a student. But here's the thing, for us, the agreement that you sign is between us and you. And so when that box arrives and you take possession of it, we're transferring responsibility for the equipment from us to you. And then it becomes up to you how you choose to be responsible with that equipment. So whether or not it goes home with a student is entirely up to you. However, if it doesn't come back, we're going to come looking to you to replace that equipment. So here are the three scenarios that I know happen in Colorado with regard to sending equipment home with students. One, people send equipment home with students. They just make a decision to do it. 2, they'll send equipment home with students, but they have their own agreement that they sign with parents in order to ensure a sense of responsibility with the family. And then 3, I know that there are districts out there who straight up do not send home loan library equipment with their students. So in the end, it's up to you. There's a couple different ways to deal with it, for sure. But it is your decision ultimately. I would encourage you, however, that if your district does not have a policy around sending equipment home, whether it's loan library equipment or other, you might have that conversation with your special education director, particularly if you're sending home loan library equipment, just so that everybody is in agreement and kind of all on the same page.
And Chris, this is Maureen. Kelsey asked, she's especially interested in how that will work this year with all the remote students. And I think the answer is pretty much still the same. It'll be up to each individual borrower. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you know, how you manage borrowed equipment is probably going to look a little different. I know that there was equipment that when the shutdown happened back in March, it just stayed with families. I think at one point we figured that approximately 30 to 50% of the equipment that did not get returned because of the shutdown at the end of the school year was remaining in place with families. And you know, I don't know if you saw, Kelsey, I'm probably talking directly to Kelsey, but everybody as well. There is a loan library survey that went out with a recent email from the SWAAAC office. We understand that these are unusual times, and we really do want to be able to support you as best we can. There are some questions on that survey around equipment needs and COVID. We know that students aren't coming to school like they did last year. You may have a number who have opted for completely virtual learning this year. And so if there is equipment needs that are unusual this year, we definitely want to hear about it. We definitely want to know what it is that we may or may not be able to do to help you through challenging times, for sure.
Chris, do you think there's a possibility that same survey could be sent again in maybe a month after we've kind of gotten going and we have more, our students aren't in school until next week? And then I feel like a lot of things are going to really come to light about what we do and don't need this year.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
I can give it a week or 2 or 2 weeks, maybe send it again in 2 weeks. Okay, we can do that. Okay. Let's see. Contents, our boxes and our equipment often shows up with a whole lot of contents. It's rarely just one thing in that box. Sometimes it's 20 things in the box. If you've ever opened up an augmentative alternative communication device, you know, there could be 12 key guards and a carry case and a strap and a flash drive and a stylus and quick start guides. But what you need to know is that almost always in that box full of contents, there should be a contents list, which should help you kind of inventory everything before you send it back. That is often a tricky thing. There's a lot of content. We try to make it as easy as possible, but it's easy to leave something on your desk inadvertently. And then it's just a process to track it down afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paige.
All right, so Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet all of you. I think maybe I've met a couple of you already, but for those of you that I haven't met, it's nice to meet you. So thank you, Chris, for all of the great information. So this will kind of be the first part of your loan library experience. Before you start borrowing any items, I'm going to be in charge of creating your login and password on Alexandria. And so once you get the team agreement signed and sent back to me, I will get all of that done for you, the login and password, and then after that, you can start borrowing items. All right, so there's two ways that you can get the items. You can either come to the SWAAAC office, which is downtown on the CU Denver campus, or you can use the courier service, which if you've never used it before, it can be a little confusing. So I'm happy to always walk anybody through the process of setting up courier service. Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks, Chris. So if you guys are having trouble setting it up or just have questions about it, let me know. You can always look on the website. It's, I think, click.web, I'm pretty sure, or courier.click.web. And if you need help on that, you can look up the county that you live in. You can find different courier stops close to where you live. I can also help you with that process as well. Or if you're taking over someone else's position or joining a team, sometimes there's already established courier stops that you can use. So it's a fairly simple process once you get it all figured out.
Oops, hang on.
And so I guess going along with kind of what I was just saying, there's always a way to set it up if you don't have it. There's always a way to find an established stop. You can always contact me by email or my office phone, and I'm always happy to help in the courier process. It is pretty handy for those of you that maybe have used it or are thinking about using it. It can be pretty nice once it's all set up for you. So yeah, so let me know if you do need help setting it up, but that's kind of the first step of the loan process, is getting that figured out with me.
Okay, so quick check. You've got your team agreement all signed and submitted. You've got your login information, and you know what you're going to do in order to pick up and return equipment. Yes, yes, yes. Now you're ready to borrow. So as I mentioned before, it's really quick and easy to get to that Alexandria website from the SWAAAC website. And here's what it looks like. Once you're on the SWAAAC website, you'll see a loan library tab. And then if you click on it, it will bring you to the researcher. I am going to jump out of this slide and go directly to the researcher for just a few moments. We've got 8 icons that we're going to explore. So here's what it looks like. And again, if you're a team coordinator, if you have login credentials, you can log in here. But anybody in the world can look at this. So we're just going to kind of explore as if we are not a team coordinator. And the first icon we're going to look at is search. And I try to tell people this is a great option if you have a pretty good idea of what it is that you're looking for. So I'm going to click on it, and I want you to notice that it is going to open a new tab. This really wigged me out for a while when I first started using it, because I always felt like I was lost in the system until I realized that most every click takes you to a new tab. and there's no back button. So here you can see we've got a search field. And let's say I know that I would like to borrow a Nova Chat. So I'm going to just type in Nova Chat and hit enter. And here you can see that we have all different kinds of Nova Chat devices. And you'll also notice up here that the Nova Chat 12 and the Nova Chat 10 Plus are both out. We have, I don't know, half a dozen of these devices, each one. And so just looking at it, I can tell that this is a high demand item, and it might go right away onto our priority purchasing list because they're all checked out. It could be that there's a wait list. But again, if I want a Nova Chat 10, and you want to really give me a good solid idea of what the demand in the state is, I would suggest that you go ahead and still request this item even though it's checked out. If I come along and click on Nova Chat, and they kind of work a little differently here, you can get more information about this device by clicking on the title. You'll also see that there's a list of all the contents that are going to be in the box. We've been trying to add purchase price so that you can get a feel for the expense on the device. And then we also add to these listings implementation videos, demonstration videos. Sometimes we have links to the quick start guides and the manuals, all those kinds of support materials that might be helpful to you when the item arrives. It might be also good to look at the videos to get a better sense of whether or not it's a good fit for your student. There's a little arrow over here next to the listing as well, all the way to the left. And if you click on that, it's a shorter version of what I just showed you. But it doesn't pop out so that you can continue to scroll. Okay. Now, if I go over here into the search box again and I type something a little more generic like mount, now I've got a very long, exhaustive search that goes on and on and on and on. And that's because it's going to pull in the word mount, not only from the title, but from the description and the contents and every single part of this entry. At which point, sometimes there are even strange things that pop up in here that you might not expect for searching mount, like the Xbox adaptive controller. Like, that's not a mount, but it does come with its own mount as part of the contents. So that's why it's popping up in this search. So again, if you have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for, this is a good option. But if you're not entirely sure, there may be a better way. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go back to the researcher landing page. And the next icon here is Scout. And I try to encourage people not to use Scout. It doesn't have a great deal of functionality, and there are just much better ways to search than Scout. I'll go ahead and click on it just so you can see it. But there's not much that you can do in the Scout mode. So if I again search mount, right, I see some options, but it's not really going to tell me much about those options. There's not much I can do here. But Explore, I'll tell you, we've worked really hard to make Explore work well for you. If you know that you need kind of a lower tech communication device, for example, but you're not really sure what is available or what might work well, you can hit Explore. And we have kind of grouped our equipment into some general categories. And augmentative alternative communication being one of those categories. If I click on it, I can drill down a little further even still. And I can look at 1 to 4 message communicators. And here you can see these low-tech devices populating into this search. Let's say I want a dynamic display. And again, we've drilled down here a little bit, and now you can see all the different communicators that have dynamic displays that are available. I want to also draw your attention. Oh, this does have a back button. That's nice. I'm going to go back. I'm going to draw your attention to more over here. This icon shows up sporadically, and I want to encourage you to make sure you click on it because there's some really good stuff behind that more button. For all of our audiologists who are borrowing audiology equipment, this is where you're going to find that prescriptive audiology equipment. I mentioned earlier that we spent some time this summer developing some digital resources. And here is where you'll find those PowerPoint books. The PowerPoint books for CVI and low vision. And the Jamboards are all located here. Okay, so that's Explore. Again, if you're not really sure, it's a great option for exploring the inventory. The next icon here is Bulletins. And you're going to find 2 handy-dandy resources behind Bulletins. The first is a list of search terms. So you saw kind of those categories that we had created under Explore. There are also tags and search terms. And so they're all listed here. So if you know that you need an adaptive keyboard and you know that you want something that's ergonomic, here you can see we've embedded into our searches and our tags ergonomically designed mice or keyboards, right? So now when you go into Researcher, you can search ergonomically designed and pull up all those keyboards. The other thing that you'll find under bulletin boards is this slide deck for our training. So if you want to go back in and revisit anything that we talked about today, you can find the slide deck here under Bulletins. And now I'm going to kind of come around the corner just a little bit and go right to left. And the next icon is the assisted search request. So let's say you've done the Explore and you're still not seeing something that you think will work well for your student. If you click on this assisted search request, it's going to take you to a Google survey where we're just going to ask you a few questions about your student and the kinds of equipment that you might be looking for. We're going to ask a little bit about the environment that equipment is going to be used in. And then you submit this survey and it comes to us at the Central SWAAAC office. And we'll look it over and then contact you with any ideas or suggestions that we might have based on our own knowledge of what's available in the inventory. The next icon down here is the new Item Slideshow. So if you're just curious about, you know, the latest and greatest, the newest purchases that have come into inventory, you can click this button and it's just a fun little slideshow. We're going to see a lot of these PowerPoint books pop up because Paige has been entering titles for the PowerPoint books into inventory. But I can bump forward a little bit here faster. There's one of the Jamboards. Let's see here. Past these books. Okay, and so now you can see that we've recently entered the inclusive classroom profile into inventory. There's an Explore Mini that just came into inventory. And an activity communicator and musical instrument. So these are all the items that have just recently been entered, and they might be more likely to be available because nobody knows about them yet. But could be a fun place to start with your searches. Okay, so if I go all the way now to the left on the bottom row, we come to this item request survey. And it's one of those things that people are annoyed by. So I'm going to apologize in advance. All of our requests are a two-step process. You're going to place a hold on equipment in Alexandria, but then you also have to complete an item request survey for every item that you're requesting. Why do we have to do this? Because the Colorado Department of Education and Early Intervention Colorado and the Colorado Tech Act program are all contributing in some way to these programs. And because they're contributing and giving us money to run these programs, they want to know how it's going. They want to know what we're doing and how we're making a difference. And so there are a couple surveys that we always have to ask for in order to collect the information and the data that we're required to report to our funding sources. So I know it's another step, and it takes a little bit, it takes a few more extra minutes to get it done. But unfortunately, there's no other good way to do it and still receive the funds that we need in order to maintain, expand the loan library. So that's what that is. That's where you'll find that survey. And then there's this Your Items Due Date. And I'm going to come back to that because I know it's coming up in our slideshow presentation. So I'm going to put that on hold for the moment and go back to our slides now. So again, here's a picture of all those icons and a very brief description of what's behind each one of them. And another slide that kind of, again, points out opportunities to log in and search. And then here, once you're logged in, are a variety of icons that will appear on the right-hand side of an entry. So here we've got a RAM 18-inch flexible mount. The icon of the hand placed on the book is the hold request. So if you would like to request that mount, you would click on that icon, and that's how you would place the hold. If you'd like to add items to a list, that's your list icon over here. And then if you would like to share that item with somebody else, the box with the little outgoing arrow will take you to the link on that item where you can copy and paste it. This is a great option for special education teachers, related service providers, parents, anyone who is looking to communicate with the team coordinator about items that they would like to borrow. It's a great way to put that team coordinator directly on the listing. And here's a little more information about searching. Again, information about that explore function. I'm not going to spend too much time on the slides because we've kind of walked through it live in the application. Here's that assisted search survey. And then this is what it looks like if you click on your item due dates. This is what will pop up once you're logged in. So only people with login credentials will have access to this feature. Under no items out, if you had items checked out, they would list out down below and include the due dates. So it's a great way to go in and very quickly see what it is that you have checked out and when they're due back. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it back over to Paige.
All right, so once you guys have your login information, you'll be able to start checking items out. So kind of like Chris said, you can search for the item that you'd like in Alexandria. And then you're gonna have a team coordinator or an EI consultant place a hold on the item. And then after you place the hold, I guess you can do it either way, but you can place the hold and then do the item request survey. Like Chris said, if you don't complete the survey, we unfortunately can't send you the item. So please make sure you do that. And then the next step is just to wait for the item to arrive at your courier stop or to be ready to come pick up at the SWAAAC office. And I know Chris already mentioned this a bit too. If you don't see something that you need, tell us about it. You know, we're always looking for great new items to add to the loan library. And like she said, if it's not available, still place the hold. That kind of gives us an idea of what we need to purchase and how many items, you know, we should continue buying to fulfill the need. All right, so after you place the hold, please fill out the item request survey. Just because we unfortunately can't send it to you unless you fill out the survey. Must be done for each item. So, you know, even if you have a child that you're checking out 10 items for, you still have to fill out 10 surveys, which I know can be kind of a long process, but it's really helpful on our end for funding, like Chris mentioned. Yep, so you can access it right there where the item request survey is in the corner. All right, so after you place a hold, it's my job to go in and fulfill those requests. So I kind of go in time-stamped order and fulfill them that way. Right now, I'm currently in the office on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. That's only because of all of the COVID stuff going on. It would normally be Monday through Friday, but currently it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then let's see, when an item has been checked out, you'll receive an email noting the day that it will be sent with the courier. You'll also get a notification email if you're coming to pick the item up at the SWAAAC office. Please let us know if you haven't received the item so that we can follow up and kind of see where it is in the system with the courier. And if requested AT equipment is not sent to you within a couple of days, it means the item is currently waitlisted or unavailable. And I'll always kind of double check, you know, if something that you would like is on hold from someone else or checked out by someone else, I'll always reach out to you and see if there's, you know, maybe a similar item that you would like to try instead or something comes up soon. Oh, whoops.
Oops. Did I exit out?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was trying to see the chat. It looks like we might have a question. Let me look here real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think we've answered them all.
Okay. Sorry, Paige. So next slide page or?
Yep, I think we're ready for the next one.
Ah.
There we go. All right, so normally, again, kind of with everything with COVID, we've shifted what we're doing a little bit. So normally the loan library items would be checked out for 6 weeks, but currently we're doing it for 10 weeks to allow a little bit more time. We know how hard it is with everything right now. So that allows for 1 week transit time on either side, and then normally 4 weeks, but right now 8 weeks to trial the item. And then if you would like to renew equipment, call or email the SWAAAC office. You can always email me or call me. You can renew equipment for a new student, and that's an entirely new trial time. Or you can always do an extension, which is normally 3 weeks, but I guess we haven't, is it still 3 weeks now, Chris?
The extension?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 2 weeks and then a week to return. Yeah.
Probably the same now. Okay. So, yeah, so 2 weeks and then a week to return for the extension as well. And okay, I think that's it for that one. All right, let's see. So, in an effort to keep loan library borrowers informed about the status of popular loan library items, a waitlist email is sent to all team coordinators or EIAT consultants monthly. So it provides a list of all the waitlisted items, the name of the borrower who currently has each item, and the due date. And the name of any team coordinators and EI consultant who have active requests for each waitlisted item.
I'll just jump in really quick, Paige.
Yeah.
And mention that we also really call out individuals who are severely overdue with that loan wait list, because, you know, if you personally wanted to contact them and say, hey, I'm waiting and you're 3 weeks overdue, you're welcome to do so.
Yes, and so that's another big part of it. It's just, you know, all of the items are very desirable. And so I think it's just always making sure that, you know, you're doing your part to always return things on time, and making sure on us to make sure that everyone else is returning things on time as well. So yeah, those monthly emails will go out. You guys will get those. And all right, so when you're returning equipment to the loan library, one of the main things to think about is, will the item return to the SWAAAC office by the due date? Just remember that we normally kind of factor in that week's time on either side of the loan library period for the item, especially if you're using the courier service. It can, you know, take a few days. Another thing to think about is the item cleaned and wrapped carefully to prevent damage during transport? We do have quite a few fragile items, so it is important to make sure that they are wrapped up nicely and protected in the boxes that they're being transported in. Another thing to think about is, are all the contents included in the box? Most of the items that have, I don't know, several different parts will have a contents list that are included. So it's laminated. I usually just use a dry erase marker and just check off every single item as I'm going through. That's probably the most helpful thing for me, to make sure that everything is there. And then we also do include a note with every item to give to you guys in case it's not working. If it's damaged or it's broken, you can write on there, tell us exactly what's happening, and then we can go in and try to fix it after it returns. And then after it's returned, you'll also receive another email just asking about your experience with the loan, with the item. You know, if you enjoyed it, if it helped, if you liked it, if you think you would purchase it after trialing it. All right. So again, don't hesitate to contact us. Shalane, who's listed on here, is currently on maternity leave, but when she comes back, she's a great point of contact, along with me, and I mean, Chris knows so much about everything too. But yes, please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions about the loan library. I'm happy to help, and yeah, I'm excited to work with all of you.
So there's our overview and our getting started, getting to know the loan library. Does anybody have questions or comments? I think there are only 16 of us, so I think it's okay to unmute. Any thoughts, comments? Does anybody have ideas about items that they would like to see us add to the library this year?
I have a question. This is Kelsey.
Sure.
If I wanted to pick up equipment from the central office, what are the COVID procedures to follow there?
That's a great question. Paige, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, of course. So currently, kind of the process that we're doing for that is feel free to email or call me. Let me know if you are wanting to come down and meet at the office, and we can find a time in one of those days. Always let me know if Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday doesn't work, because I can always come down to the office on a Wednesday or Friday also, if that works better for you. And, you know, we are cleaning and sanitizing every item that comes in. We're quarantining every item for at least a week right now. And when it's getting sent back out, or when people are coming to pick back up, we unfortunately can't have anyone come into the building, but if you can just park your car in the little parking lot behind our building, I can just come right down with your items and just meet you at your car and wear masks. And yeah, that's pretty much the process.
I appreciate the time that you put into this. Thank you. I'm a special education teacher, so I don't know that I'm able to request the items, but understanding the process a little bit more is super helpful. So thank you. And now I know where to navigate to go look at all the goodies and everything. Yeah, so anyway, just wanted to say thanks.
You bet. Do you know who your team coordinator is for your district?
I have an idea. I know who my go-to SWAAC person is. So I think I can get an answer.
Good. Great.
And they are all the team coordinators are listed on the SWAAC.org website. So
Oh, perfect.
Listed by district, who the main
Okay.
would be.
All right, cool. I was wondering, how do you share the digital resources, like the Jamboards and such that Paige made, and like the stories and things? Is it just sent out in email?
Mm-hmm. So we came up with, it's kind of a signed agreement, just a couple questions to make sure that you actually own a physical copy of the book. Otherwise, it would be copyright infringement. So as long as you go onto Alexandria and sign that little form, we can just email you a copy of whichever book that you'd like. Yeah, and it's just yours after that to keep and do whatever you'd like with it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.